First off, what is the Wyoming retirement system? Basically, we offer 8 we call defined benefit plans and 1 457 deferred compensation plan. A defined benefit plan, the 8 of them are listed up here. For most people that work for WYDOT, you will fall under 1 or 2 categories, either public employee or Warden Patrol and DCI. So public employees, there's 2 tiers of benefits, and it's very important for you to understand which tier group you fall under, because that's going to let you know when you qualify for retirement, how your benefit's structured, and all the information that you need. So a defined benefit program is also called a pension benefit. What that means is once you qualify, we're going to pay you for as long as you're alive. The pension is a lifetime benefit once you qualify and accept the benefit. Because you don't have to accept a lifetime benefit. You can always take a cash refund. We don't suggest that because it could be real high in taxes and you forfeit all future benefits from us. But most people who qualify will take a lifetime benefit, and again, it pays you for as long as you're alive. Your benefit is not based on how much money goes into your account. We get a lot of calls where people call and say, I wonder how much money is in my retirement account. It takes us about 15 seconds to look it up. Before I look it up, I will always ask a question. So why do you want to know how much money is in your account? And everybody always gives me the same answer. Well, I wonder how much I'm going to get. Your benefit isn't based on a balance. Your benefit for your pension is based on a math formula. Now, again, we have 8 defined benefit programs. Each formula is different, even for Tier 1 or Tier 2. That's why it's very important to understand what tier group you fall under. So how's your pension funded? Both you and your employer is responsible to pay a certain amount of your salary to our system. So for this to kind of make sense, think of a bucket of money and a swimming pool of money. The bucket has your name and your social security number on it. You're responsible to pay 9.25% of your gross salary to your bucket. Now, the state has elected to pay some of that for you. They pay 5.75% of that 9.25. State employees pay the other part. There are some employers across the state that pays the full 9.25 for their employees. There are some employers like the city of Casper who don't pay the 9.25. Their employees have to pay the full amount. So whether you pay the full 9.25 or the state pays that for you, that goes into your bucket. All of our employers pay into what we call our swimming pool money, and they pay 9.37% of your gross salary towards the swimming pool. Okay? When you get your annual statement or you look at your account balance on RAIN, you're only seeing what's in your bucket. Now, one thing to understand is if you quit before you're vested, and we'll talk about vesting in the next slide, but if you stop working before you're vested and you take a cash refund, you're only going to get what you actually put into your bucket, not the state's match, and not any interest. Once you're vested, then the bucket's yours. So if you quit or whatever, you can always take that anytime you want. Okay? So it's very important to understand what tier group you're in. And again, there's Tier 1 and Tier 2. Tier 1 is for anybody that was hired before September 1st of 2012. If you were hired before September 1st of 2012, you're Tier 1. If you're hired on or after September 1st of 2012, you're Tier 2. Now, if you were Tier 1 in the past and say you quit working for the state and you took a cash refund and you came back after September 1st of 2012, you forfeited your Tier 1 status and went to Tier 2. Okay, so if you ever split service, you have to understand if you cash out, if you come back, you go to the lower tier group. Okay, for Tier 1, your full retirement age is age 60 or what we call the Rule of 85. And we'll explain the Rule of 85 on the next slide. For Tier 2, your full retirement age is 65 or the Rule of 85, whichever happens first. Okay, it's one or the other. All the Rule of 85 does, it allows you to retire before 60 or 65 without having a penalty. The Rule of 85 doesn't get you any extra money. It just allows you to retire before 60 or 65 without having a penalty. Now, I explain it that way all the time for 18 years, and I still get the question, well, I won't meet the Rule of 85 until I'm 72, so I have to wait till 72. Well, then you turn 60 or 65 first. So it's whatever happens first as long as you're vested. It's one or the other. Once you get to 60 or 65, depending on your tier group, the Rule of 85 actually goes away because it doesn't matter anymore. To be vested in our system, you have to have 48 months of service or 48 contributions to our system. Now, I'm assuming everybody here is full-time. So if you're a full-time employee, you qualify for 1 month of service as long as you get 86 hours or more a month. Now, if you're on vacation, sick time, all of that counts, because if you're getting paid for it, it counts as time worked. Now, you cannot earn more than 1 month in any 1 month, so if you work, say, 170 hours, we're not going to give you more than 1 month of service. So once we get 48 months of services on you, you're vested. And all vested means in the pension system, it means you qualify for a lifetime benefit. That's all vesting means in our system. If you have 48 months, you qualify for a lifetime benefit. If you stop working without 48 months, you don't qualify for a lifetime benefit. All you do is qualify for a refund. Okay. So this is an example of the Rule of 85. If you take your age and your years of service underneath our system, not with your employer, so your seniority with the state has nothing to do with us. Okay, it's time underneath our system, and again, you qualify for time based on the months you worked in your salary. So if somebody started working when they're 55 and they have 30 years of service underneath their system, 55 and 30 equals 85, they qualify for the Rule of 85. So it doesn't matter if you're Tier 1 or Tier 2, the Rule of 85 is the same. There is no Rule of 90 or Rule of 95. I hear that a lot. It's the Rule of 85. So you should be able to know exactly what tier group you were in based on when you got hired, and you should know when you would qualify for retirement. Are you going to turn 60 or 65, or will you meet the Rule of 85? That's what we look at when we calculate your benefit. So for Tier 1, we look at the age at which you retire. Are you retiring on time, or are you retiring early? Because there is early retirement that we'll talk about too. So we look at, are you retiring on time or early? And then we look at your years of service, again, underneath our system, not with your employer. And then we look at your highest average salary. For Tier 1, your highest average salary is the 36 consecutive months in your career underneath our system. It is not the last 3 years of your employment. It could be, but doesn't have to be. Whatever 36 months you were paid the highest is what we use. Longevity pay does count towards your highest average salary. But if you get per diem, travel, stuff like that, that stuff doesn't count. It has to be pay. Okay? So for Tier 2, again, it's the age at which you retire, 65 with the Rule of 85, your years of service, but your highest average salary is based on the 60 consecutive months divided by 5. So Tier 1 was 36 months divided by 3. Tier 5 is 60 months divided by 5. Now, if you think about it real quickly, you can be vested after 48 months, right, which is 4 years, but your salary is based on 60 months of service if you're Tier 2. So if you stop working after 48 months, you qualify for a lifetime benefit if you're Tier 2, but because you don't have 60 months of salary, we will give you zeros for those 12 months. So that can drastically lower the benefit. So I would say if you're Tier 2, try to get at least 5 years underneath our system. Okay. When you do retire, there's 8 different benefit options on how you can get paid and how your beneficiaries will be paid. The next presentation one goes into those beneficiary options in detail. But we also have a video on our website that you can look at that explains those benefit options. The two most important decisions you're going to make with retirement is picking a date and picking an option. So here's an example of Tier 1. Joe works for the state of Wyoming as a maintenance worker at WYDOT. He was hired on October 1st of 1990 when he was 25 years of age. He's worked underneath our system for 30 years. His highest average salary was $35,000, so how would his benefit work? The first thing we have to determine is, does he qualify for a full benefit? That answer would be yes, because he started when he was 25. He's worked for 30 years, so he's 55 with 30 years of service. That equals the Rule of 85. Now, if he works longer, will he get more? The answer is yes. I have people say, well, once you meet the Rule of 85, you might as well retire because you're not going to get more. We pay you based on your years of service. The longer you go, the more we're going to pay you. There is no cap. You can even earn more than 100% of your salary if you want to work long enough. But for Tier 1, that's 45 years and 4 months, and for Tier 2, that's 50 years. We have people who work that long all the time. We used to be a guy who worked for WYDOT in Rock Springs. I think he worked for the state 60 years or right at 60 years and stuff, so he qualified for more than his salary. So for Joe, he qualifies for full retirement. So the way Tier 1 works is you get 2.125% of your salary for your first 15 years of employment. So I do 2.125 times Joe's first 15 years equals 31.875% of his salary. If you go over 15 years, you earn 2.25 or 2.25% of your salary for any year over 15. So for Joe, because he has 30 years, it'd be 2.125 for 15 years and 2.25 for 15 years. So he qualifies for 65.625% of his highest average salary. His highest average salary is $35,000 times 65.625 is $22,968 per year divided by 12. We're going to pay Joe $1,914 a month for as long as he's alive if he takes benefit option 1. The formula is always based on benefit option 1. Again, there is a video that goes over the other options, and we'll be doing that at 1 o'clock as well. How much money is in Joe's account? Don't need to know. I don't care, because it has nothing to do with his monthly benefit. Okay. For Tier 2, Mary was hired on October 1st of 2012 when she was 57. She works for YDOT, and she falls underneath the PE plan. Her highest average salary is $40,000, and Mary just turned 65 on October 1st. So does she qualify for a full benefit? The answer is yes, because she's Tier 2 and she's 65. She has not met the Rule 85. The Rule of 85 doesn't apply to her anymore. Okay, so she qualifies. For Tier 2, your math is a little bit simpler. For Tier 2, you earn a flat 2% of your salary for each year. So Mary has 8 years, 2% for 8 years is 16%. 16% of $40,000 is $6,400 divided by 12. I'm going to pay her $533 a month for the rest of her life. Now, what happens when we start paying you, we're going to pull the money from your bucket first. Remember I talked about the bucket in the swimming pool? We're going to pay the money from your account first when we pay you. For everybody in the room, your bucket usually lasts about 3 to 5 years. For the people who've been here a long time, yours lasts a little bit longer, but not much longer. So if your money runs out in about 3 to 4 years, where do you think we get the money to pay you for the rest of your life? That's what that big swimming pool money is used for. Our oldest retiree just passed away. She thinks she was 108. She was retired for 47 years. Her balance was about $18,000 in her bucket. We paid her over $1 million. So the advantage of the pension is once you qualify, we pay you for as long as you're alive. Because sometimes the biggest fear of retirement is the fear that once you retire, you will run out of money before you pass away. Well, with the pension, if you accept it, we're going to pay you for as long as you're alive. Some other benefits of the public employee plan, there's death benefits. In other words, if you pass away before you retire, and most people don't understand how this benefit works. I'm not talking any insurance you have through the state. You have a death benefit with the pension system. So the way this works is if you have less than 48 months and you pass away before you retire, whoever you have listed as your primary beneficiaries, we get whatever's in your bucket doubled. Okay? So if you have less than 48 months and you die before you retire, your beneficiary gets whatever is in your bucket doubled at the time that you pass away. And every month, the amount in your bucket goes up because every month we get contributions and every month we pay you interest. Now, once you're vested, if you have 48 months of service or more and you pass away before you retire, if you have one primary beneficiary, and that one primary beneficiary is your spouse, the spouse would have two options. One option is take a lump sum payment that I just described, your balance doubled, or your spouse, when they qualify for retirement based on whatever tier group you're in your age, they can start drawing a monthly benefit for the rest of their life. If your primary beneficiary is a non-spouse or you have more than one primary beneficiary, they have to take the lump sum payment. It's very important for you to understand who your beneficiaries are. That's why if you can log into your RAIN account, it shows you exactly who your beneficiaries are, and you can always make changes. But if you want to make a change to your beneficiary and you're married, your spouse is supposed to be your primary beneficiary. So if you ever want to take your spouse off of it, they have to agree to any change on the primary beneficiary. If you're single, you don't have to worry about it, okay? If you don't have a beneficiary listed and you pass away, the money has to go through probate. So we also have the form in the back to change the beneficiary. We also have a form if you're a new employee and you never designated a beneficiary, there's a beneficiary designation form that you can fill out as well, okay? So that's the death benefit. We also have disability. Disability doesn't get you any extra money. All disability will do, if you qualify, is allow you to retire earlier without a penalty. So for Tier 1, to qualify for disability, you have to be younger than 60 and have at least 10 years of service. If you're Tier 2, you have to be younger than 65 and have at least 10 years of service. The reason you have to be younger than 60 or 65 is because if you're 60 or 65 with 10 years of service, you qualify for normal retirement. There's no reason to go through the disability process. Okay, but if you become disabled, and what happens is you get a doctor's explanation stating what the disability is, we have a disability board that will determine if it meets our qualification. What we will do is allow you to retire early if you qualify without having a penalty. That's all disability does. It doesn't get you any extra money, it just allows you to retire early without having a penalty. Because we always have early retirement. For Tier 1, early retirement starts at age 50. As long as you're vested. For Tier 2, it starts at 55, again, as long as you're vested. But if you retire early, and when we use the term retirement, we mean you stop working and start drawing your benefit. So if you stop working and draw your benefit early, there's a 5% penalty for each full year you retire before 60 or 65, depending on your tier group. So let's say I'm 58, I'm Tier 1, and I just want to stop working. I can always stop working and wait till 60 to draw my benefit, and then there'll be no penalty. There's only a penalty if you draw it early, not when you stop working. Okay? And we already talked a little bit about the survivor's benefits. One thing with the pension, there are no loans in the pension system. Basically, for both of our systems, the 457 and pension, to get money in our system, you have to do one or two things: quit or die. You can't borrow against it or anything like that. So please make sure on the pension you know who your beneficiaries are, make sure you have beneficiaries, and please make sure you keep your address up to date. If you got hired by the state and you gave them your address and you've moved, they don't tell the retirement system, you have to. Okay? We spend a lot of time looking for what we call lost members, people who don't keep up their information on the account. So please keep the information up to date.